This is California 9, KCAL TV, Norwalk, Los Angeles. Now, Jerry Dunphy, Jane Velez-Mitchell, weather with Carl Bell, and Joe Fowler on sports. This is Prime 9 News at 8, voted Southern California's best newscast.
It's something that hasn't happened in these here parts in more than 100 years. Rain falling on us 8 days into the month of July. As a matter of fact, you'd have to set your clocks back to 1877 to find the last day when it did. And so how much did we get on this July 8th, 1991? And what problems did it cause? Carl Bell has been checking this all out, and he joins us now with a live and quick look. Carl.
All right, well, we have to go back to the old song, Who Says It Never Rained in Southern California, because it certainly did on this day. Now, we've had trace rainfall figures on this date, but never any measurable rainfall. And I guess if the guy who wrote that song wrote it, he probably wrote it sometime during the summer months. We've got some pictures to show you of the rainfall and also some rainfall figures to discuss with you. In fact, I can say safely that for this rainy season, we're already above normal. And let me give you the stats so I can kind of explain to you what's happening here. For downtown Los Angeles, we picked up 0.13 of an inch of rainfall from this storm. Normal is none, so that's why I said we're above normal. And this is the third wettest July on record. The wettest was back in July 1886. It was just about a quarter inch then, and the second wettest was July 1986 with 18/100. Now, in terms of rainfall around the Southland, there you go. You can take a look at the figures. Pretty good for the mountains, which is expected. Of course, the mountains and deserts is where this storm originated, and we even have some pictures of the storm as it occurred in Hesperia.
Been in California all my life and never seen anything come down like this in July.
Hesperia, as you heard the voice over there from one of the residents. Look at that stuff, 40-mile-per-hour winds, 40-mile-per-hour winds. It was a very strong thunderstorm there, and it flooded some of the streets there in about 3 to 4 feet deep floodwaters down some of the streets there. And at least 5 homes received some flood damage from that storm. Now, there's a storm in the past 24 hours. Watch it well over Southern California, and now it's slowly drifting off to the east. And right now, the rain showers are confined mostly to the Mojave Desert region. I'll be back with our forecast, and it still includes a little bit of rainfall in it for some communities. I'll explain when I come back with the forecast in just a bit. Pat, Jane.
Okay, Carl, thanks very much, and we'll see you in a little bit.
All right.
As Carl mentioned, Jerry's off, and Pat Harvey joins us tonight.
Really good to be here, Jane. Well, our other top story to tell you about tonight is quite different from the rain. It's a violent weekend in L.A. and Orange counties. A bloody weekend that left 20 people dead, 28 others wounded. We have team coverage on 2 of these incidents.
Our first story is on the death of a toddler, just 14 months into this world, whose life of promise ended in a spray of gang gunfire. Our report from our Mary Grady.
There you go, my baby. Thank you, baby.
Katie's cries of pain fill the small house in Willowbrook. She's looking for answers, but there are none. At 21, Katie Jones is already learning one of life's hardest lessons, the pain of losing a child.
My baby is dead. They killed my baby.
Michelle Jones was only 14 months old. Last night, she was gunned down. Michelle, her mother Katie, and 2 uncles had just come home. They were getting out of their car when tragedy struck. Sheriff's officials say a blue Jeep Wagoneer drove by and opened fire. Everyone was hit. The baby was killed. Her parents want to know why.
Angry, upset. I can't believe this has just happened.
My baby hasn't done anything to nobody because she was too young.
Right next door to the Joneses on this wall is the trademark of violence here in Los Angeles, gang graffiti. Was Michelle's death an act of gang retaliation? The Joneses say no.
There are 9 children in the Jones family. They are proud of their accomplishments. One wall of the living room is lined with pictures of 6 high school and 1 college graduate. Wayne is the eldest. He says none of his brothers or sisters are involved in gangs.
If I ever hear that one of my brothers or my sister that's participating in gang activity, they have to see me. And I know that they don't want to see me, because I'm the biggest and I'm the oldest, and I take care of business when it comes down to it.
That's why it's so hard for this family to understand why they would become targets and why little Michelle died.
They really took my soul, my heart, my reason for living from me.
In Willowbrook, I'm Mary Grady, Channel 9 News.
Well, there are no suspects yet in this shooting as Sheriff's Department investigators try to determine if gangs are behind it.
Our team coverage of the Southland's violent weekend continues now. It was a weekend that was all too frightening for thousands of local taxi drivers as well. In fact, one of their own was shot and killed by a customer.
Well, the shooting happened in South Central LA. It's the second time a local cab driver has been shot to death in 2 months. Our Deborah Snell is live in Van Nuys at a cab company where lots of drivers there are quite concerned right now. Deborah.
No question about it, Pat. We're talking about the murders of 2 cab drivers. That doesn't even take into account the number of cab drivers that are robbed at gunpoint. Here at Valley Cab Company alone, at least once a month, they have a driver who is held up. It is a big issue here. There's a lot of people concerned tonight because the issue of safety is now at question. Omi Anyanusi had only worked at LA Taxi for 6 months. Friday night, police found his bullet-riddled body outside of his cab in South Central, a victim of an apparent robbery. And just 2 months ago, another cabbie, Titus Imahu, was also murdered. His body thrown in an alley, also in South Central.
You know, you're out here trying to make a living and you're taking a chance on your life.
Donald Shanks lived to talk about his night of horror. In June, 4 men approached his car. A shotgun was fired at close range. One bullet hit one of his passengers.
So I'm like this, I fell to the floor, and I'm hit the gas hand, and I'm looking at the electric wires, and I'm gagging by the electric wire. And I went all about 2 blocks all the way down, just like this.
Looking at Donald's cab from that night visualizes the terror that he and his passengers went through, a terror that many cabbies experience.
Hey, 5 around 6.
Mark Coons is the dispatcher now. He drove a cab for 2 years. That was until someone held him up at gunpoint and robbed him last June. Then he said no more.
You know, you're risking your life every time you go out driving. So I believe that, they should be able to protect themselves, any way they can.
Donald insists that something can be done to stop this crime spree on cabbies. For starters, getting the police and council members to respond the same way they did when 2 teenagers were murdered at a Subway sandwich shop in Northridge last week.
The city of Los Angeles will be offering a $25,000 reward.
$25,000 reward for the capture. I'm all for it, reward for the capture. But what councilman in the black neighborhood, what councilman, if he was black, would have did that?
Donald said the police did take a report when the incident happened with him, but they just took a report. They never have bothered to call back to see if he could have identified any of the suspects who held him up. On the contrary, the shooting at the subway station was handled quite differently. The Devonshire division had about 30 people, police and volunteers, out that night looking around for clues. 2 situations, granted both not murders, but 2 shootings handled in very different ways. Back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Deborah.
All right, thanks for that information. We have more to tell you. If you know anything about either of these 2 weekend crimes we just told you about, the toddler death or the cab driver shooting, we want to hear from you.
Now, you can call the Channel 9 We Tip hotline right now. And here's the number, 1-800-78-CRIME. People are standing by to give any information you have to the police. And as always, you don't have to give your name. Again, the number to call is 1-800-78-CRIME. Police say they need information to catch these criminals, and if you can help them, you may be eligible for a reward.
And now a sad turn to an already heart-wrenching story. An Orange County woman is in jail tonight, accused of killing her newborn baby after delivering that child herself. 28-year-old Marshall Black was arraigned in court on murder charges today. The Cypress woman allegedly delivered her own baby in a bathtub a year ago, put the child in a plastic bag, and hid the infant in a closet where the baby died. Authorities investigated for some time before arresting Black. Her attorney insists the woman never intended to kill her own baby.
She had the baby, probably did not realize the baby was going to be born that fast, and she had had babies before, but for a lot of extraordinary and extenuating circumstances, had not told her husband about it, and that's clear, and had this baby and tried to have the baby on her own, and things didn't go right, and she panicked. She never intentionally killed this baby.
Aronson says her client wanted only to hide her pregnancy from her husband because the couple already had 3 children. Black's husband reportedly did not want to have another baby. Black is being held on $100,000 bail tonight in Orange County Jail.
A former L.A. school teacher will spend years behind bars. He was sentenced today for molesting 4 of his female students. Don Ray Moore showed no emotion as he was sentenced today to spend 14 years in prison. In May, Moore entered guilty pleas to felony charges of sexual attacks on 5th and 6th grade students at the 97th Street Elementary School. Prosecutors asked for the harshest sentence possible, noting that Moore has shown no remorse.
I have yet to hear any statements in the sentencing report, in the psychiatric report, in the probation report of any acknowledgement of wrongdoing, any remorse or responsibility for severely victimizing 4 young girls.
Moore had been arrested in the case back in 1987, but jumped bail and lived as a homeless fugitive for 3 years. He was recaptured last year and will now have a prison address for some time to come.
We're going to switch gears now and move on to an uplifting story. This could damage your eyes unless you get prepared. The partial eclipse of the sun. We'll show you how to get ready for it coming up.
And a tough question tonight, is Santa Monica Bay really safe to swim in? Next, you'll hear from people who say the big scare is that no one really knows.
I'm Tracy Savage, live in downtown Los Angeles. If you need help from the LA Fire Department, be prepared. There may be delays. The city's budget cuts take effect today. For the fire department, it means less equipment and fewer firefighters. That story just ahead.
Plus, the 50th anniversary of one of World War II's bravest but least decorated groups. The Flying Tigers gather in the Southland. Their reunion coming up.
And later, tourists almost losing their lives when the running of the bulls gets out of control. You'll see it all when Prime 9 News at 8 comes right back.
It's GMC Truck Summer Show and Sell. We'll show you this summer's big selection of new GMC trucks, like this new SLT Jimmy with standard 4-wheel anti-lock brakes and elegant leather trim interior, the sporty Sonoma, Safari with available full-time all-wheel drive, or Sierra with the highest resale value of any full-size pickup. Then we'll sell you with big summer values. GMC Truck Summer Show and Sell. Find out what's happening at your GMC truck dealer today.
We've had babies up there, a 106-year-old man. No one regrets it, ever. People do call with questions. They can feel very comfortable talking to us because we're the ones that have paid for it instead of them. And that's why the custom 800 number made sense to us.
Any business can soar with Pacific Bell Custom 800. Call and find out how to target certain towns or with a participating long-distance carrier all of California.
We've grown so fast because of it, we're going statewide now.
Communication's tricky when you're hungry.
Okay, I'll go, but nowhere fancy.
Meaning nowhere expensive.
Well, I want real food.
Meaning the steak and broiled shrimp platter at Sizzler. Fresh cut USDA sirloin, grilled just the way you like it, and plump, succulent shrimp, delicately seasoned and broiled to savory perfection. Steak and broiled shrimp. It's exactly what you're looking for.
Sizzler.
Buffet court and grill. Meaning?
Everyone satisfied?
Mm-hmm.
Pollution on our beaches now. One of the worst areas in the Southland is getting some much-needed attention today. The environmental group Heal the Bay says it has come up with a plan to clean up the bay. They say the situation is so bad, urgent steps are needed.
Even on a dry day in Southern California, we get about 20 million gallons of runoff, of polluted urban runoff into Santa Monica Bay. On a day when we get a good rain, about 15 billion gallons a day flow into Santa Monica Bay.
So they've drawn a list of suggestions to clean up the bay. Among the suggestions, a stop to the dumping of partially treated sewage into the bay. This happens because our treatment plants aren't big enough to handle all the sewage and storm drain runoff when it does rain. A study on the health risks to swimmers. Today, Heal the Bay claimed nobody has ever fully studied the bay to see if, in fact, swimming in that water is dangerous, and the establishment of regional centers so that people can drop off their household hazardous waste like old paint and motor oil. This way, people would not be tempted to dump it in the storm drain. The plan now goes to local, state, and federal environmental agencies to act upon, and we're definitely going to keep you posted if they decide to do anything about this mess.
Well, Jane, money problems may make living in the city of LA a little less safe this summer. If a fire breaks out in your home or someone in your family needs a paramedic, you may find yourself waiting a long time for help to arrive. And that's because today, the LA City Fire Department began making big cuts, which will mean less men and women on the job. Our Tracy Savage is live in downtown LA to explain all this. Tracy.
Well, Pat, with the prime fire season just beginning, it's not a good time to have to make do with less. But the LA Fire Department just doesn't have any choice. The city is mandating a 10% cut to help balance the books. As of today, all across the city, fire units like this one are just sitting idle. 24 units in all have been temporarily taken out of service. They call it a brownout, and it doesn't just affect the equipment, but personnel as well. The fire department is having to make do with 86 fewer firefighters. Now, this has left the fire department operating rather mean and lean, and fire officials fear it could mean trouble. By cutting the fat, the city may also have trimmed some of the muscle. Already, the LA Fire Department is feeling the squeeze. According to fire officials, fewer firefighters, less equipment means, without question, delays.
But you could be looking at anywhere from 2 to 5 to 8 minutes. In areas like that, it's entirely possible.
This morning, case in point, a fire at this restaurant on North Broadway. The smoke got heavy and firefighters on the scene needed some backup. But according to fire officials, because of the cutbacks, getting that backup took longer than normal.
It turned out 2 of the 7 companies on the scene were what we call brownout companies, and they actually had to go further to get resources in because of the void created by the initial response.
The LA Fire Department is attempting to do its best with less. Firefighters will be rotated from station to station to ensure adequate protection. But according to fire officials, the level of service is still bound to be impacted. And of course, it's not just for fires, but with other emergencies as well. Of the 86 firefighters let go, 14 were paramedics. If you need an ambulance,
there could be a delay. We do expect to have delays.
Now, the fire department says the 10% cutbacks may also be placing firefighters in greater danger, simply less manpower on the scene. Now, there's not really much the LA Fire Department can do about these cutbacks except hope for the best. While they're just calling them temporary, they're expected to be in place for at least the next year. Reporting live in downtown Los Angeles, I'm Tracy Savage. Back to you.
All right, Tracy, sounds like a lot more volunteers will have to be on board. Thank you. Well, now the LAPD is in the spotlight. Some are already calling tomorrow Judgment Day in LA. It's the day that the Christopher Commission offers its findings in the Rodney King beating investigation. That report is expected to take a critical look at the LAPD. It could have a lot to say about the future of Police Chief Daryl Gates. Our David Goldstein takes a look at what we can expect.
April 1st, Mayor Tom Bradley appoints a blue ribbon panel headed by former Deputy Secretary of State Warren Christopher to take a critical look at the LAPD.
We intend to make a thorough and comprehensive study of the operation and structure of the police department.
The commission was formed after the March 3rd beating of Rodney King to make an in-depth investigation of the police and hear from citizens on charges of racism in the department.
If you're going to do anything about these problems, you should hear these problems.
Over the past 3 months, the panel has held a series of public hearings, all to prepare for their report, which is expected to recommend sweeping reforms.
I expect that the Christopher Commission report is going to help us change the image and as well as the direction of the Los Angeles Police Department.
The commission is investigating 4 key areas: management, police training, brutality complaints, and the possibility of civilian oversight of the department.
Well, I think they're going to say some of the things that we've been talking about, that there is racism in the department, that the disciplinary system is wrong, that there is a code of silence that needs to be ended.
Chief Darrell Gates, who has refused calls by the mayor to resign, has said he will step down if the commission says he should. But Commission Chairman Christopher says his report will not point the finger at any one person. Still, Ripston believes the problems start from the top.
If they find that there are many, many problems in the police department, I think he'll have to resign, because whether they name him or not, he is responsible for that department.
So perhaps the future of the Los Angeles Police Department could change dramatically when the commission releases its report, a report that's long overdue, according to department critics, and one that could directly impact the job security of Chief Gates. In Los Angeles, David Goldstein, Channel 9 News.
When the Christopher report is released tomorrow morning, Channel 9 will be there, and we'll have a special live report on the findings. That's 11 a.m. tomorrow, live, right here on Channel 9. Well, there are some giant roadblocks today for the newest man who wants to sit on the Supreme Court.
That is true. When we continue, why even some African Americans are saying that Clarence Thomas is a token black who should not sit on the highest court.
And he was a young man who taught many of us that it's no crime to have AIDS. Ryan White. So why would anyone destroy his grave? That story is next.
And wildfires raging again across Yellowstone National Park.
Chicken, how about sirloin? Grab all the ribs that you can. Purloin, be my little barbecue tonight. Any old time, any old weather, we'll start the fire by rubbing up together. Be my little barbecue tonight.
The Black Angus Barbecue Platter. A great deal of steak, chicken, and baby back ribs. Now only $9.95. But get them while they're hot.
American Airlines proudly announces daily nonstop service from Los Angeles to London's Heathrow Airport. And with our expanded service from across the U.S., American will become the #1 American airline to London. So come with us to Great Britain's first city on America's #1 airline.
It's where individuals become a family. It's where they share memories and news and opinions. It's where parents get to know their children and their children's children. Homes will always be an important part of people's lives. That's why home loans are such a secure investment. And that's where Home Savings of America has put its depositors' money for more than 100 years.
In Japan, where the luxury performance sedan has been revolutionized by Lexus and Infiniti, a new luxury performance sedan has just won Japan's highest honor. Introducing the new Diamante from Mitsubishi, Japan's car of the year. Mitsubishi, the word is getting around.
And now a look at the stories headlining the news in America tonight. Supreme Court nominee Clarence Thomas is facing a double-barrel shotgun. In one chamber, a powerful black organization. In the other, a powerful U.S. senator. Thomas was on Capitol Hill today rallying support that he will need for confirmation hearings. But he's not getting a full round of support. Senate Majority Leader George Mitchell is opposing the president's nominee. He says Mr. Bush is trying to fill a racial quota by choosing Thomas.
I do not accept the president's explanation that race was not a factor at all in this nomination.
Thomas is also being blasted by the NAACP. The organization is meeting in Houston this week. Its concern isn't Thomas's race, but his background.
Record at the commission was not good in terms of its sensitivity towards affirmative action and racial and age discrimination. Without a shadow of doubt, our assessment of Mr. Thomas and his philosophy was not favorable.
The NAACP wants to meet with Thomas to question him on minority issues.
Sex lives and Televangelism? Jury selection has gotten underway in the trial of evangelist Jimmy Swaggart. Swaggart was in court today for the start of a $90 million defamation suit. Another evangelist is accusing Swaggart of trying to ruin his ministry by spreading rumors that he was a sex fiend. That TV minister got even in one way. He helped trigger Swaggart's downfall in 1988 after he released photographs of Swaggart with a prostitute. What followed was Swaggart's famous tearful confession.
The sin of which I speak is not a present sin.
Attorneys predict the trial will go on. His mother is offering a $500 reward for information leading to the vandal's arrest.
Ryan gave and gave and gave. He gave till the day he died. And I think this is how a lot of people are paying him back or giving him. He never did anything to nobody.
White was rejected by several cities and schools after parents learned he had AIDS. That rejection is apparently following him beyond the grave.
California isn't the only area.
Now, even if you don't have those glasses, the eclipse will be visible in the Southland at about 10 o'clock on Thursday morning. The moon will block about 70% of the sun here. You would have to head to Baja, Mexico, or Hawaii to see the full eclipse, although that sounds like a lot of fun, too.
It'd be nice to have that choice.
Let's go. Just kidding. Well, this could be the biggest medical insurance ripoff in American history, and it's based right here in Southern California.
That's right, busting up a $1 billion fraud ring when we come right back.
I'm Sharon Okuno, live in Hollywood. Another counterfeiting scam has gained a foothold in the Southland. We will tell you who the victims are coming up.
And hello, I'm David Jackson from the Channel 9 newsroom. Believe it or not, this man that you're about to see, there he is a licensed optometrist. He lost everything back home after the volcano hit in the Philippines. Now he's collecting cans here to make a living, and he still has to support his 2 elderly parents back home. Tonight at 9 o'clock, the story of the recycling doctor. And Michael Landon's publicist says the star knew the very moment that he was going to die. Do many people have premonitions when they die? We'll explore that coming up tonight at 9.
On April 17, 1991, after conducting an independent evaluation of national weight loss companies, the respected San Francisco Chronicle said this about Jenny Craig. Of the leading national programs, the food rated highest in taste, texture, and appearance. The cost was reasonable. Overall, the program included all the components that contribute to successful weight loss. Thank you, San Francisco Chronicle. Here's more good news. Lose all you want for just a $39.50 service fee. Call 1-800-76-JENNY.
A For Kids' Sake message from your Southern California Ford dealers.
Before you ride your bike, make sure it's safe. Wiggle the handlebars and the seat. If they're loose, they could cause an accident. Squeeze the tires and add air if they're low. Make biking fun and safe.
Your Southern California Ford dealers are proud to have brought you the special message For Kids' Sake.
At Caro's, we make ordinary chicken extraordinary. We bake it to perfection. We saute it piccata. We toss it with pasta. We sauce it Florentine. We even simmer it in Grey Poupon. In fact, Caro's has 5 tempting new ways to enjoy chicken from only $5.99. So, when it comes to chicken, savor the classics. At Caro's, where we care. Right now, enjoy this weekday breakfast for only $3.39.
In naming the Maxima one of their top cars, Car and Driver, Road and Track, and Automobile wrote close to 10,000 words of praise. But since a picture is worth 1,000 words, read this. The Nissan Maximas start under $20,000. Test drive one today.
The next time you're buying something in a Southland store, look closely at the change the cashier hands you. It may be fake money. Secret Service investigators say an increasing number of phony bills are turning up in local Hispanic communities where residents are not familiar with American currency. Sharon Okuno is live in Hollywood with more on this story. Sharon.
Well, Pat, we're at a neighborhood mall that caters primarily to the Hispanic community. Tonight, merchants and customers of largely Hispanic businesses are being warned of a counterfeiting scam, one that started south of the border. Jose Cervantes runs a thrift store on Broadway. At least once or twice a month, someone tries to pass a counterfeit bill. Some of the people don't realize they have counterfeit money.
Some people don't know nothing. They say, hey, what's happening?
What seems to be happening is a new twist on the counterfeit scam, one that is centered in LA's Hispanic communities. According to the Secret Service, a growing number of illegal aliens are passing phony money. Many times, they don't even know it.
Those that were not familiar with genuine U.S. money would certainly have a much more difficult time determining the genuine nature of the bill.
Investigators say the illegal aliens think they're buying U.S. currency on the Mexican black market, when in fact the dollars are a poor imitation. In the past year, $500,000 in fake bills have been recovered from Hispanic businesses in Los Angeles alone. That thrift store on Broadway tries to cut its own loss by showing cashiers what to look for.
Porque nos han dicho que los verdaderos tienen como comida.
She was told to look through their fibers, and she was also to look through the paper. The paper is a bit more simple than the real money.
Well, the most obvious giveaway, as that cashier mentioned, are the fibers, red and blue fibers found on the paper of genuine U.S. dollars. Also, you should check the quality of paper and the type of printing. These are tips that are important not only to merchants, but those on the other side of the cash register, the customer. Reporting live, Sharon Okuno, Channel 9 News.
Thanks, Sharon. We'll try to remember those tips.
And speaking of money and scams, we are now on to $1 billion scam. Federal agents say this is the largest medical insurance fraud case ever. As Mark Watts reports, it took a 5-year investigation and the seizure of more than 10 million documents to crack this particular case.
The medical clinics that formed the backbone of the scam have all been shut down, but authorities say, while in operation, the team of cons, which included 2 doctors and a lawyer, pulled off one of the most profitable scams ever, ripping off California insurance companies.
I can assure you that this is the largest fraud case of any type ever worked by the inspection service.
The indictment says the scam surfaced in 1985 with mobile medical vans and then expanded to medical clinics throughout Southern California, apparently masterminded by 2 Soviet citizens, David and Michael Smuskovich. Authorities say they operated more than 250 medical clinics, from Woodland Hills to Mexico. And one of the clinics was located here in San Dimas. The Smuskovich brothers and the others indicted would lure people here through telemarketing operations, boiler rooms. Patients would receive phone calls promising free health exams and medical checkups. In order to get the free services like a blood pressure test or cholesterol check, the patient would have to provide proof of medical insurance. The patient usually got what he came in for, but the clinics would later use the patient's insurance information to bill the carrier, sometimes as much as $10,000 per claim for services that were never provided.
Plain English, they're smart as hell. And they came up with something that is relatively new.
In all, $1 billion in phony claims were sent out. The scam artist collected on $50 million of that money. The biggest loser was Blue Cross. It alone paid out $14 million in false billings.
Unfortunately, insurance fraud is a lot safer than robbing banks, and you can make a lot more money at it.
Other companies lost big too, but the biggest loser is perhaps every Californian who pays for insurance, faced with soaring premiums because insurance companies are constantly getting built. In Los Angeles, Mark Watts, Channel 9 News.
We do have some good news out of all of this. Most of the buildings where the clinics operated have since reopened, but their current operations are in no way tied to this case of insurance fraud. They are separate new businesses.
Well, it's an annual ritual. Tourists are run over by bulls in Spain. You'll see it all coming up.
And next, one of the Southland's proudest ships going into mothballs, saying goodbye to the USS Missouri when we come right back.
Need a new car? There's one that'll wow you. Best in its class in overall value. High in resale, cheap to maintain. Folks buy 'em again and again. What's this car called, the one we endorse? The 91 Civic from Honda, of course. Your Southern California Honda dealers, as dependable as the cars they sell.
Of all the tough opponents I've faced, none's been tougher than pain. Smelly old-fashioned liniments never helped much, but today's trainers have something that works. Aloe vera-based Flexall 454. When one pain-relieving gel is endorsed by the athletic trainers in pro football, baseball, basketball, and hockey, you know it's the best. Sidelined with pain? Get back in the game. With Flexall, it's a winner. Flexall, the pain relief pro trainers recommend.
We've had rock stars, corporate presidents. Some people think we ought to do a show and call it LA Limo. We're a lot faster since we got our Custom 800 service. When someone calls us and says that there's been a change in their flight, they know they're going to be mad, bang, just like that. That makes them call us again.
Any business can profit from Pacific Bell Custom 800. Call and find out how to target certain towns or with a participating long-distance carrier, all of California.
About one trip a month covers our costs. We'd be fools not to have it.
Heard about Chevron's great gasoline and grocery giveaway? With over 3 million instant winners?
That's a lot of winners.
You could win the grand prize. Free groceries for life.
That's a lot of groceries.
And free Chevron gasoline for life.
That's a lot of gasoline.
Or one of over 3 million free gas and grocery prizes worth up to $10.
That's a lot of fun.
So stop by Chevron, start playing, and start winning.
Two stories tonight about people in the Southland paying tribute to their military heritage. We begin with the mightiest, the Mighty Mo. The great gray ship saw 3 wars and is now going to rest in peace. The USS Missouri is being retired, and this weekend, 30,000 Californians trekked to Long Beach to say so long and thanks for the memories. The Mighty Mo in action last year. But this weekend in Long Beach, its 16-inch guns were silent as hundreds of people walked up the gangplank of the USS Missouri for a final chance to stroll around a bit on a floating piece of history. Mighty Mo is being decommissioned after nearly a half-century of service.
Well, the ship was originally commissioned in 1944 at the end of World War II, and of course, this is where the Japanese signed the surrender, ending World War II.
58,000 tons of might, seen in Tokyo Bay, Japan, for the historic signing on September 2nd, 1945. The Missouri also took part in several shore bombardments during the Korean War before being decommissioned in 1955. But it was brought back into service in the 1980s, and most recently, Mighty Mo served her country during the Gulf War.
We fired 28 Tomahawk missiles in the first 5 days of Operation Desert Storm at various targets in Iraq.
In one 60-hour period, more than 600 rounds were fired from this battleship, guns that people came to see.
I love the wooden planks. I had no idea a ship would have a wooden plank or huge guns. It's very impressive.
The USS Missouri, along with her 3 sister ships, Iowa, New Jersey, and Wisconsin, are the only ships in the world that have these awesome weapons. And the sight of such firepower brings back memories.
The older people, the people who remember the history of World War II in Korea, I've seen people stand and cry on the surrender deck because it brought back that emotion of the end of the war.
But in spite of all this, Mighty Mo is being mothballed. The Defense Department has to cut its budget. The ship's workers and those just visiting are sad.
It seems to me it should be turned into a museum or something, since this is where they signed the surrender during World War II.
And when you put such a historic ship, you decide to put it back away. Yeah, there's a little string there that tugs on your heart and says, you know, God, I wish it wouldn't have to be.
But here's a consolation. The Mighty Mo is going into retirement gracefully, switching from a routine of maneuvers to memorials. This December, Mighty Mo will sail to Pearl Harbor to help mark the half-century anniversary of America's plunge into the Second World War.
Well, time now to pay tribute to an endangered species, the flying tigers. The tigers were 290 American flyers who, for a time, single-handedly defended China against the Japanese bombers during World War II. Just 91 flying tigers remain, and most gathered in San Diego this weekend to relive past glories and to receive new honors. A report from Patty Panicia.
It was half a century ago that the Flying Tigers risked their lives for a series of missions that until now has been largely ignored by the Pentagon.
The Chinese Air Force is decimated, and we needed to keep China in the war.
While the United States built up its forces, the Flying Tigers defended China from Japanese air attacks.
Almost as if out of nowhere, this group of fighter pilots with shark's teeth painted on their airplanes swooped out of the sky.
They shot down nearly 300 Japanese planes and lost only 4 of their own. Those Flying Tigers who attended a 50-year reunion attributed their amazing record to 2 things: sheer determination.
Our spare parts were limited in many cases to what we could salvage off from crashed aircraft.
And a fierce loyalty to their leader.
If General Chennault would have said at any time, cut your arm off at the right shoulder, we would have done it.
They had come to China as civilians. The U.S. had not yet entered the war, and military pilots would have violated the Neutrality Act. But because they were civilians, they've been denied veteran status until now. Still, most are thrilled about the Pentagon's change of mind.
There's just the idea of getting the recognition.
Recognition for a job well done, above and beyond the call of duty. Patty Panicia reporting.
After the war, some of the Flying Tigers came home to form the courier company called Flying Tigers. It was eventually sold to Federal Express.
And by the way, I understand that you flew on a Flying Tiger once. You were just telling me.
Yeah, I certainly did, from New York to Paris, in fact. It was quite interesting.
I can imagine. Well, we're going to move on to weather next. Carl Bell is going to see if any more raindrops are going to be falling on our heads.
Plus, what happens when a mechanical horse ride goes berserk in Burbank. You'll see when Prime 9 News at 8 comes right back.
Would you trust these moments to anything less than Kodak Gold? There's no better way to capture the true colors of America than with Kodak Gold.
It takes you almost an hour to get to work, which leaves you with 2 choices. You can either own a house closer to work, or you can own the road in between.
I've got 2 identical shopping lists of 100 items randomly selected by computer. Gene is taking his list to Ralph's, and Alma is taking hers to Lucky. They're back. Gene, how much did you spend at Ralph's?
I spent $266.22, Larry.
Uh-huh. And Alma at Lucky?
$247.39.
That's like over $18 less.
All aboard!
The International House of Pancakes Passport Breakfast. 2 eggs, 2 bacon, 2 sausage, and 2 very international-style pancakes. Either German, Swedish, French, or good old-fashioned buttermilk. So if you like a big breakfast just a little out of the ordinary and you're headed for the International House of Pancakes, you're on the right track.
IHOP Passport Breakfast, served Monday through Friday anytime, except holidays only $2.99.
Today was day 2 of the annual Running of the Bulls in Pamplona, Spain. This is the week-long festival when daredevils pit their wills against the bulls. But the fun turned to real disaster today, and we warn you, some of these pictures are very graphic. 2 bulls broke from the pack, injuring 3 tourists. The worst injured, a 23-year-old Swede who was gored right through his thigh. The bull's horn destroyed the major artery in one of his legs. Doctors say he is in very serious condition. Now, each year, the bulls run a half a mile from their pens to the bull ring, where they are then killed themselves. And this is proof that man is not always smarter than the beast.
Well said, Jane. It's historic there. Never quite understood
it's
why.
It's controversial here,
but it's
for sure.
Well, let's talk about some rain. Not in Spain, but I'm
Mainly
sorry,
on the plane.
bad. That was really bad. But anyway,
boy, sandwiched between two poets.
You wouldn't know it.
But we would know.
Yeah, people at home are going, please. Anyway, some wet weather around the Southland today, something we don't see on July 8th, at least not in the Civic Center, where we recorded 0.13 of an inch of rainfall, as we told you at the top of the newscast. That indeed is a record, at least in recorded weather history, which is 114 years here in the Southland. Let's head outside right now to Burbank, to the airport, for a beautiful picture of some calmer skies now as the clouds are moving out of the area and some sunset there for you. Right now, what we have in downtown Los Angeles, partly cloudy skies, temperature of 65 degrees. Wind is out of the west at 12 miles per hour, and the humidity right now is at 81%. The pressure is at 29.94 inches. High for the afternoon, 76, well below normal, but tomorrow we'll get right back up there as we'll get rid of the clouds and get a little more sunshine. And there's your record, 95, set back in 1886. Push it back 24 hours and watch this weather system. In fact, we talked about it on Friday that the monsoons out of the desert southwest would possibly come up and over into part of the LA basin and the coastal areas. The mechanism that was needed to pull that moisture over the mountains and into the basin arrived late yesterday. There was an upper level low across northern Baja. It shifted northward. It basically sucked in, just vacuumed in those clouds, and it added just enough instability for a little bit of rainfall this morning. Now, that upper level low responsible for all this is slowly trekking across the northeast. Right now, though, in this area right here, we do have reports of some rainfall right now, and also along parts of the Mojave, or rather, I should say, up toward parts of Death Valley and onto Nevada. We do have some rainfall right now being reported on radar there, and the other rainfall area here across our northern deserts into Las Vegas. In fact, in Vegas tonight, there is a flash flood watch in effect. And if you are traveling that way tonight by Interstate 15, be very, very careful as you'll run into some wet weather. Lows across the Southland tonight will be mostly into the 60s, 50s for our mountains, and we'll find 70s across our southern deserts. And daytime highs tomorrow afternoon nicely into the 70s along the coast. And we're getting back into the hot range here, 80s and 90s for our valleys, and 106 in Palm Springs. And air quality tomorrow, good for the basin, Orange County, the coast. Unhealthful levels, though, for the San Gabriel, Pomona regions, and also San Bernardino down into Riverside. Elsewhere, moderate. There's a forecast for the coast tonight. Still a chance of some showers sprinkled here and there. Sunny and warm tomorrow. For the downtown area, back to normal by tomorrow after some scattered showers tonight. Still a possibility. For the valleys, again, some showers or thunder showers a possibility tonight. Sunny tomorrow, highs back into the 80s and 90s. For the mountains, scattered showers tonight. Slight chance of thunder showers tomorrow afternoon. And for the deserts, still some thunderstorms perhaps for the far eastern deserts tomorrow afternoon. Highs 90s to 100s, 5-day forecast. It's into the 80s, and we're going to find ourselves back into the normal pattern of night and morning, low clouds and fog, clearing out to sunshine.
Well, I tell you, that rain came just in time because we had a great weekend, and then...
Wasn't it?
It was over.
And then it breaks up the monotony of hazy skies.
And smoggy skies, all that other stuff.
It gives you something to talk about.
Thank goodness.
Are the baseball All-Stars ready for the big game tomorrow? All-Stars. We will find out in Sports Next.
Plus, you'll see what happened when a few great All-Stars of the past hit the field one more time. Joe Fowler is next with sports.
American Airlines proudly announces daily nonstop service from Los Angeles to London's Heathrow Airport. And with our expanded service from across the U.S., American will become the #1 American airline to London. So come with us to Great Britain's first city on America's #1 airline.
What are you shopping for at Silo?
I'm here to make sure that my son doesn't get skinned alive.
That would never happen.
My son is not going to pay too much for his VCR.
Silo guarantees
He's getting a top brand like Sony or JVC, not some whatever.
Hey, that's just the beginning of...
And he won't be tolerating some incompetent salesperson, let me tell you.
Silo is different. We don't...
And now I suppose you'll try to tell me it's different at Silo. Well, we'll see about that.
Come on, Mom. Let's go.
You're getting just like your father. You asked me to come to Silo.
Televisions, audio, and appliances.
The Terminator is back. Come to Subway, buy a 32-ounce drink, and you'll get a Terminator 2 Collector's Cup free. But hurry, before it's too late.
Over there!
Let's go! Hurry! Jody, T.
From Steven Spielberg's classic motion picture comes a breathtaking new ride for the whole family. Have the adventure of your life when you ride with E.T.
Oh.
Now at Universal Studios Hollywood.
What do you call a home that works with you to save energy? A welcome home, with all the energy-saving extras designed right in. When builders work with Edison to create homes that exceed all state energy efficiency standards, this welcome home decal goes in the window. It's your assurance you'll be cozy and save money too. Not just energy, creative energy. Call Edison for welcome home locations near you.
The Sports Report is brought to you by Charlie Brown's. Now you can enjoy our delicious live Maine lobster dinner for only $13.95, but not for long.
No, not any games to talk about, but
No.
still a lot of sports news.
No.
Okay.
See ya. I got a lot of stuff
Really?
to talk about right here.
But
We
we're
got a
going to
dog race we want to talk about.
Do you have a dog race there? It's
derby.
better than what I've got. No, I'll manufacture a little something. This should be interesting.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Well rested, but nothing to talk about. Here's the National League West. Take a look. We're in the break. Time to take a breath. What do you think? Last year, the Dodgers were light years away from Cincinnati. Now they're 5 up on them. Atlanta's falling. San Diego, San Francisco, the most disappointing season. And, of course, Houston, where they should be. 80 games down, 82 to go. Is a 5-game lead safe? Not for Tommy Lasorda.
Never enough. I can look at the other division and see Pittsburgh got a 5-game lead, and I say, boy, they're in good shape, man. They got 5-game lead. Then I look at our division, I see a 5-game lead. I said, man, we got to have 10. 5 is not enough. We got to get more. We got to keep going hard. We got to keep driving. We got to keep building it up, and that's the attitude.
American League West, hey, where are the Angels? Right behind Texas and Minnesota. I like where the Angels are, folks. Just 2 games back. Remember, Texas and Minnesota had streaks this year. Chicago, Oakland, don't count the A's out. Seattle, KC, a very excited Doug Rader expects big things in the second half.
I'm not so sure that we're going to do anything real sensational. I think we're going to have a 10-game winning streak, and we're going to probably win 20 out of 25 somewhere along the line. But I think that the thing that people are going to remember about this club is how consistent we are.
Thanks, Doug. All-Star festivities began today in Toronto. Home run hitting contest won by American League 20-7. Cal Ripken Jr., 12 home runs. Old-timers game won by the National League 9-3. Bobby Bonds, first inning off Gaylord Perry's greaser. Bonds shot deep double score Steve Garvey and Bill Buckner. That gave the Nationals a 3-0 lead. They traded Bonds to the American League team in the middle of the game. Gaylord was... Well, that's much like his years. I mean, he always was moving. Gaylord, 1 inning, 3 runs, 4 hits. How many teams did you play for, Gaylord?
You answer that question about 20 times a day, you get kind of tired of it, so I put all the logos of the teams I played for. At one time, these clubs wanted me, and then later they decided not to keep me.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 logos? Way to go, Gaylord.
Yeah.
All right, that's sports.
fair. Next time we'll talk about your vacation when you don't have any of the sports.
That'll take about a minute.
Well, you didn't tell us about the horse races.
Which
It's okay.
ones?
I've
that's
got a
your
horse
story.
race story here that'll
It's a segue.
knock you over. One last thing tonight. We have a story about a free ride on a quarter horse. Actually, it's a horse made of metal that usually costs 25 cents to ride, but not today. At least a dozen children took advantage of a mechanical horse's generosity this morning at a supermarket in Burbank. This little girl, her grandmother had no idea how long this ride was supposed to last. She waited 15 minutes. The horse didn't stop. Spotting this phenomenon, children lined up, waiting for their turn. They rode, and they rode, and they rode, and they rode, and this horse kept on running and running and running. It was more than 2 hours before somebody finally told the store's manager about this, and you can bet the snitch was not a child. And they say that there's no such thing as a free lunch or free ride anymore. What do
As
they know?
we know, children have the patience of Job, don't they?
And they
can
love a
ride
free
all
ride.
day long, that's for sure.
All right, well, that's it for us.
That's right. David Jackson will join me in just a minute for Prime 9 News at 9. Hope you'll stay tuned.
Have a great evening.
Right now, Charlie Brown's is serving up our live Maine lobster dinners. But at just $13.95, we won't be for long. Whole live Maine lobster dinners, just $13.95 at Charlie Brown's.
Tender live Maine lobsters. Even at Reuben's, we can only get them once a year. Fortunately for you, we've got them right now. Whole live Maine lobster dinners, just $13.95 at Reuben's.
A school of fish. A ton of whales. A navy of seals. A gang of sharks. A chorus line of flamingos. A clique of dolphins. A beam of rays. A formol of penguins. A galaxy of sea stars. A world of wonder. SeaWorld, it's not another park, it's another world.
Kearns invites you to
drink an apricot on your yacht. Drink a bite of Kearns Nectar.
Kearns Nectars have so much whole fruit goodness, it's like drinking a bite of fruit.
Drink a bite of Kearns Nectar.
And now some words of value. Oldsmobile, Cutlass, Supreme. But hurry, they're going fast. For more information, see your Oldsmobile dealer today.
It's time for your summer love update.
Chuck's still trying to pair up singles. Babe, come over here and give me a kiss. Chuck, she's making fun of me. Which Chuck replies, who the heck really cares? Then Tony's caught dreaming about Angela, while Angela's thoughts are on the red Speedos at 2 o'clock. Here come the big kahunas. Confused, girlfriend answers, there's more to a relationship than just sex. Time out. Is love possible? Summer love updates, weekdays at 6 on California 9. Shut up.
Next on Prime 9 News at 9, Iraq finally admits to the world it's been trying to build a nuclear bomb, a clear violation of the ceasefire.